Welcome to the People and Performance Podcast, featuring guest experts from such global brands as NASA, Salesforce, the Milwaukee Bucks, Staples Professional, IBM, Mutual of America, Xero, and Simon Sinek Inc. The show offers expert insights into the strategic capabilities and behaviors needed to grow and sustain employee performance.
Thanks for tuning in. In this episode, we consider ways an LMS can improve the employee experience and impact your bottom line. Our guest today is Graham Glass, founder and CEO at CYPHER Learning, a company leading the disruption of learning platforms to unleash human potential with modern learning experiences. We hope you enjoy the conversation Bill had with Graham. If you do, please show your support for the podcast by subscribing to the pod and sharing it with your colleagues. Thank you very much.
Hey, Graham, welcome to the show today.
Hey, thanks for inviting me, Bill. I'm looking forward to it.
So why don't you start by telling the People and Performance listeners all about yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to. So as you mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of CYPHER Learning. We provide a cloud-hosted modern learning platform. But I'll tell you a little bit about my background because it is relevant to what CYPHER Learning is doing. So I'm, I'll say an ex-educator. I like to think I still educate. But I used to teach computer science at the University of Texas at Dallas, and that's where I got my higher ed teaching chops. And then I formed a professional training company and was teaching advanced computer science techniques all over the United States, which is where I got my corporate training chops. And I have to say, before I started CYPHER Learning, I was very underwhelmed by the current state of EdTech in general. So I made it my mission and the company's mission to really significantly improve the way that people teach and learn through the use of technology. And so in our conversation today, I'll tell you a little bit about what we're up to. But that's essentially CYPHER Learning. We're really trying to improve the way that people use technology to teach and learn.
What are the key benefits of bite-sized learning compared to course-based learning?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I've evolved my thinking about that over the last few years. So when you think about bite-sized learning, you normally think of something that's really small, right? Something that you could consume while you're waiting in the line for pizza, for example. And that was, some people call that micro-learning. I'm actually not as convinced as I used to be that that's the main thing to focus on. I actually think it's more about relevant, concentrated learning, of which bite-sized learning can be an example. And I'll tell you why I say that. So, I'm a technologist. And obviously, a lot of people have been following AI and ChatGPT. And so one of the things that I had to learn very quickly about 6 months ago was all about ChatGPT. And I did find some sites that did a really good job, but they were not bite-sized learning. They might have been 6 to 10 pages long of, diagrams and verbiage and all kinds of details. But it was extremely relevant, very concentrated, and time went by in a blink of an eye. And so I don't think I could have done that through bite-sized learning. If I was flipping through 10 different small screens about ChatGPT, it would have been much less efficient than getting that super concentrated kind of juiced up version of learning. So what my stance right now is, it's not so much that it's small. The most important thing is that it's concentrated and relevant. And if you can give learners an experience through concentrated, relevant information, that to me is the most important thing. A lot of courses are not like that. A lot of courses could be a 4-hour course about a certain thing. I don't want to plow through a course to find that one little nugget. So one of the key challenges for L&D generally is, given that a learner wants to learn X, how do you allow them to learn X in a very concentrated, relevant way? So that's kind of my overall feeling about bite-size versus course.
The People and Performance Podcast, supported by Fidello Inc., is dedicated to offering tips and expert insights into the strategic capabilities and behaviors needed to establish, grow, and measure the performance of employees. If you enjoy the show, why not subscribe and give us 5 stars through your favorite podcast app?
Okay, now let's talk about the skills gap, and specifically the skills gap between employees and employers and how that has serious consequences. CYPHER Learning's 2023 survey highlights the need for modernized training to stay competitive. Can you talk a bit about some of the findings and how training impacts the workplace, employees' priorities, and the changing space of training environment?
So the first thing, the motivation for us commissioning the survey in the first place is because we're very focused on AI-powered skills development. And, our view is that in the workplace, there's a lot of people who have to learn new things all the time. And if we can make it really easy for them to upskill and show mastery of these things in real time, then that is exactly what the company wants. And, I personally am a voracious learner. So I'm consuming new information all the time. And the last thing that I want to do is to go into a course and learn it. There's much better ways. So we did this survey and we said, okay, are you getting what you need in terms of skills development in your organization? And what we found was, number one, it tends to be the executives who get the lion's share of attention in terms of skills development. And underneath the executive level, it's usually not that great. So that's the first thing we found out. The second thing we found out is that it's extremely important to people. It literally ranks up with healthcare. It's like 89% of people find on-the-job learning is extremely important to them. And not only that, but if they feel they're in an organization which does not value this kind of training and opportunities, a lot of the time they feel that they're stagnating. It's bad for their professional development, and they will ultimately leave. Another key finding is most people find that the way that they are provided training by their L&D, their organization, is not fun at all. And like it or not, the modern learner expects learning to be efficient and pretty fun. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be. So that was another key finding for us. And the last finding is that because of all these requirements, L&D groups are pretty stressed out because they're somehow expected to create these really fun, on-the-job, on-the-fly training experiences for modern learners who have all these expectations, but simultaneously their budgets are being squeezed. So that's not a good situation. Now, clearly, we have solutions to these problems, but that could be a separate topic for this podcast. But those were the 5 top findings. To recap, it's super important for people, ranks up with healthcare. It's typically not fun. The executives are the ones who normally get the lion's share of the high quality training. The L&D teams are getting pretty stressed out. And people who don't get quality training opportunities feel that their jobs are stagnating and they might leave.
Okay, very good, very good. These episodes for the People and Performance podcast go very quickly. We've only got a few questions left already. The next 2, Graham, are questions that we ask of all of our guests, sir. So don't worry if you repeat yourself a wee bit from what you said previously. We cut these up and we use them in clip shows and other cool things. The first of those 2 questions is, in 1 minute or less, and I'm getting my stopwatch out in front of me. Can you share
Don't stress me out, bro.
Graham, in 1 minute or less, can you share one piece of advice or some direction that you were given by a mentor, leader, or colleague that inspired you to perform at a higher level in your career?
Yeah, I can. It's from our investment partner, Invictus. So Invictus invested a significant amount of money into CYPHER Learning about 2 years ago. And the board member from Invictus, he basically said, Graham, you got to amp it up. And there is actually a book called Amp It Up, but it's basically about making bigger, bolder changes earlier on when you're working in a particular project or a particular company. So I would say bringing a bit more sense of urgency and a bit more boldness to making changes in an organization is probably one of the best bits of advice I've ever had.
Okay, I think we found our title for this episode. Amp it up, people, amp it up. Next question that we ask of all of our guests, Graham, is, from a culture and people processes perspective, what does a high-performing company mean to you?
For me, it means quality execution with a sense of urgency. And I think that the sense of urgency is like a really important thing because there are windows of time where you have to really sprint. There are other areas of time where you can pace yourself and it's more like running a marathon. And I think that there's different approaches to how do you ensure quality execution and a sense of urgency? And, one of the things that we really believe in is empowering people to create their own dream teams, which means that putting together the right combination of people in your team so that there isn't like one big weak link, for example, that holds the rest of the team by. And there's different ways to do this. You can just, fire everyone until you find the best team members, or, which I think is a bit more positive, is to work with really good raw material and make sure that they have the training that they need in order to perform at the level that you expect. So this is where we kind of come full circle with the whole, upskilling and skills development, because if you can give people the knowledge and experience that they need, it's much more likely that you're going to end up with this quality execution.
You don't want to end up with an execution. Geez, that's a bit extreme, isn't it? Graham, before we wrap up for today, how can our listeners connect with you and learn more about CYPHER?
So the best way to do that, if you want to connect with me personally, I'm on LinkedIn. It's just Graham Glass. And if you want to learn about CYPHER Learning, go to CYPHER, that's CYPHER learning.com. For those of you who are Matrix fans, yes, the word CYPHER actually does come from a character inside of Matrix. And the last thing I'll say is that when you go to CYPHERlearning.com, definitely check out this incredible new AI feature we just released called Copilot. It will absolutely blow your mind. Building very quickly AI-powered courses in less than 10 minutes is a massive breakthrough and just an example of where AI can really help de-stress your L&T team.
I respect your ability to get a little plug in at the end there, Graham. Very good. That just leads me to say thank you very much for being my guest today. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you for listening to the People and Performance Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.